Good morning, everybody. It's Jeff Goldberg for the Sales Pro Network. If you've joined us before, you know I am a sales coach and trainer, and I work with both individuals and organizations internationally to help them increase their sales. I founded the Sales Pro Network to elevate the profession of sales, to give salespeople a place to network, learn, grow, and earn more money. And if you've joined us before, you know that every Friday at 10 a.m., we either do a live training or a live interview with somebody who can add value to the profession of sales. Today is Friday, November 13th. It's Friday the 13th, everybody. If you're superstitious, this might not be the best day to do some sales, but I always go in the opposite direction. To me, any bad day is a good day. Like, I love prospecting and closing business after Thanksgiving and the week between Christmas and New Year. So I say today's a great day to close some business and a great day to be learning from an expert like our guest today, who I'm going to bring on right now. He is a military veteran and a social entrepreneur with extensive sales and sales management experience. He is the president of Sales Evolution. Please welcome our guest, Alex Archawski. Alex, great to meet you.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Did I pronounce that right? Is it Archawski or Archawski?
You know what? Our priest tried it, our teachers tried it, but it seems like you're the only one who can get it right.
Oh boy! Apparently, you've never spoken to my ex-wife because she says I get nothing right. But okay, at least I got something right today. Hey, Alex, before we get going, could you maybe give us the 2 or 3 minute version of your background? What brought you up to this point?
Yeah, quick background on myself is, I started selling with Cutco knives. I guess if anybody's been, sink their teeth into selling, there's a generation that did copiers and there's a generation that did knives. Maybe some people did Boy Scouts popcorn, right? And grew up and outside of Philadelphia, born in France. So I'm kind of dual nationality. Came here when I was little. And then just college, military, and just stuck with sales. A lot of history within that area of entrepreneurship, growth, Fortune 500, a lot of different areas, and landed where I am today.
Wow. And I think I'm the generation before you because I started with Encyclopedia Britannica.
That's a good one.
Boy, oh boy, was that a learning experience. I was actually with them for 8 years and learned a heck of a lot and sold a lot of encyclopedias. And like with Cutco, I don't know about you, but I found that quite often you see very, very interesting things when you're doing in-home sales.
It depends the age, but what I found as I was in high school is the confidence in communication is the key. It's not about selling. It's getting a generation to better understand their confidence level in communication. And that does mean sales. It doesn't matter if you're selling an idea, selling a widget, selling your promotion. If you're effectively communication, you get voted in this country.
Yeah, and and you're right about the confidence thing. One of the things I told all my kids, but especially my son, was that anything that you state that with confidence that's reasonable tends to be accepted. Growing up, he used to say things to me where I'd go, "No kidding." He goes, "No, but I said it with confidence, right, Dad? And you bought it." So it's huge. I've got a million questions for you, Alex. So I'm just going to jump right in.
Sure.
One of the things you offer is called guest-free training. What is guest-free sales training, and how does that differ from other programs?
Well, in order to have a really successful sales process, you never want to guess. So you never want to guess if it's a prospect. You never want to guess where your time is, time management. You never want to guess if you're in the right activity. You never want to guess if it's the right decision maker. You never want to guess what stage you're in the sales process. You don't want to guess if they understand the value. You never want to guess about money. You never want to guess if they're going to, if there are any roadblocks, objections, So what happens is, if you're a professional at eliminating guessing, then you can sell. You can sell appropriately. If there's guessing, that's where it starts being challenged. So we took the process as about guess free. You're just not going to guess throughout the whole process.
I love everything you just said, especially the process. I can't resist telling you this. On Monday, I was speaking with one of my private coaching clients. I like you, I do many different services, and one of them is one-on-one coaching. And she was telling me, Jeff, I've had she's a coach, a business coach, and she's fantastic. Jeff, I've had a bunch of deals go flat. And the excuse I was getting, the objection was, well, I don't know if I can afford that. And which of course is different than it's too expensive. But what she found was that each of these prospects who told her no because they couldn't afford it had hired another coach for a similar or higher price. So I said, okay, something's up here. Let's have a discussion. And it only took about 40 minutes before I figured out what was going on. She has a sales process. It's not even the one I taught her. She has another coach's sales process that she uses, and she was not using the process. I realized in asking the questions, she wasn't following the process that has proven successful for her in the past. And I find that all the time. Salespeople do something well. They maybe see a shiny object and say, oh, I'm going to try this. And then they forget what really works. And to me, it's all fundamental. Do you find something similar? You got to follow the process.
Yeah. So Jeff, you mentioned something that we're very attuned now, right? So when somebody leans in and say, help, 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 or yeah, I need, we look at them to say, just how they view life, right? Have you gone on a diet? Yeah, I have. Why didn't it work? And that's our answer if we're going to be able to help them. So in other words, it's not about wanting to do it. It's not about it's like, if you were given the tools, if you were given the resources, why aren't you executing it? Am I the fifth personal trainer in your gym that you're like, maybe I'll ask Alex that he can help me with sales? I'm like, am I the fifth guy or am I the first person? So we have to kind of filter intent, because it looks like people have a passion to be better. But at the same time, we're in the business of, are you good at executing what was in front of you before? And so we got to, in our world, you know how it is. We got to see where people are and how they behave in our areas. Coachable, intent, everybody wants something. But at the same time, we got to see where they are. That's why we do a lot of onboarding in the beginning before even coaching.
Yeah. And it's almost like, I've given you a hammer. Why are you trying to use a screwdriver to put nails into wood? It doesn't make sense. But, look, I find that quite often. People just aren't following the process. There's my process, yours process, and probably, 10,000 other processes, and many of them work. But follow what's working. Stop doing what's not working. It was just, I don't know about you, but when I'm coaching, I often in my mind, I'm going, why don't you just do what I told you to do? I don't teach anything fancy. I don't know about your stuff, but there's nothing fancy or really advanced about what I teach. Here's the fundamentals, because to me, the fundamentals are what works. Yes.
Yeah. So I coach Little League and I've been around scouts, and it's all human behavior, and you can find how people view coaching and how people view training. So the believability, the trust factor, whatever the world is, some are straight in, right? And some are never did this before. So when they're the never did this before, you kind of seem like how they're going to ride a bike. Are we going to take a month together, or are you going to take a week to learn how to use this? Or are you going to take a day to learn how to use this? So human nature is human nature of how people are coached. And I think getting them to very much trust that the ability to do things that we put them in a position of success is they fear failure and they don't want to look like idiots. That's the reason why we don't see it, that the people want to do that. So as long as they understand it's okay to stumble and get 20% right in the beginning, then they're okay with trying.
Yep. I want to ask you a question about something else I'm passionate about. I actually co-authored a book on this subject, goal setting. Goal setting and, of course, goal achievement are important for any sales rep that if they're going to be successful. Tell us a little bit about your goal setting process.
Well, I think at the end of the day, if you think about goal setting and goal getting, everybody wants to put something down on paper. Everybody wants to do that. The question is, did everybody write why they didn't achieve the ones in the past? So we kind of reverse it. We write down why they didn't achieve other goals, and then we coach and train on that, and then that they're able to achieve any goals they want. So what happens is that nobody talks about the anchors. Nobody talks about the roadblocks. They just want to add more. So we don't believe new goals and aspirations, because what happens is, my goal is to lose weight this year. I'm just going to do generic one. What are the reasons why you didn't lose weight? What didn't go to the gym? It was cold. It was dark. It was, you name it. So those are written. We do write it. They have to write it down, not verbalize it. And so it's permanently in front of them of, are you sure you want to set a goal? if you know you haven't addressed how to overcome self-limiting beliefs. So for us, for goals, is removing any self-limited beliefs. We feel like people are sailing around the world with an anchor dragging on the bottom of the ocean. So they're feeling like, why is it taking me forever? Why can't I, and I said, well, it's bad habits and self-limiting beliefs. So we need to align them before day one, rather than coach them through too much while they're trying to set goals. It's just, they didn't leave intact. They didn't leave with a full set of sail. They're just leaving with aspirations. So it's kind of like New Year's resolutions, which are goals. So it's the same, is why aren't they achieved is the biggest things that they have to overcome.
Love that. And I'm glad you said New Year's resolutions, because they're pretty much worthless. New Year's resolutions are typically, I hope I do this. And hope doesn't do it. For me, part of goal setting is commitment. I don't care what you want. I don't care what you hope for. I don't care what your dreams are. As a human being, I do. But as a coach, I only care about one thing. What are you committed to? And I love what you said about writing it down. Look, every goal setting expert says that. And I'm always stunned when salespeople don't have a written down goal. And the other thing is, I want to make a lot of money. I want to lose weight. How much weight? How much money? If it's not specific, your brain can't focus on it. And if you ever read the book, Psycho-Cybernetics, we're born with a success mechanism in our brain. We're born to be successful, but that success mechanism needs something to focus on, and that's a specific goal. So I love what you're saying there.
And if it's okay, if I can add to that, is,
Please.
coming from the military background of commitment, right, and goal. Our goal is to take the ship to the Pacific Ocean, the Navy ship. What's the goal? What's the commitment to get there? But the resources and the tools and the leadership are what makes in place. So that's kind of sales leadership, right? In the sense of, how do you help the team achieve its goal, and the commitment to get there, while putting people in a position of success so they know how to do their own goals and objectives. Company objectives are different from individual goals. And a lot of companies miss that when they said, hey, we have a goal. And I said, well, that's your goal. That's not your team's goals. So if they're not aligned, then you can't match and meet objectives.
I love talking to people who get it. I was talking to a prospective client the other day, and he was like, I don't understand why my people don't care about our goals. I'm like, because they don't care about your goals. They care about their goals. They're not interested in making the company successful. And of course, in the right company, you will develop that atmosphere where everybody wants to see the company do well, but individual producers want to make money. How do I succeed? And their success should contribute to the company's success. You worry about your goal, let them worry about theirs, and let the sales manager, hopefully, is smart enough to make sure that all the team's goals add up to the goal for the company. And you said something just now that I was about to ask you about anyways. You have a long military career. How did your military career influence your sales career? And what do you do about that today?
Well, it wasn't long, even though I thought it was long, even though I felt like I was at sea long, right? Everything seems long when you're young, right? And drag. But I could tell you that I was dyslexic when I was little. So dyslexic means you can't really communicate well. So I still have some form of it in there. And if you can imagine, when you're dyslexic, you have zero confidence. You're really reserved on saying the wrong things and being made fun of and all that. So what the military did was teach me to be a better version of myself. And for having the people that are around that environment, and in a sister and brotherhood and fraternity of putting mission in place, having a goal, teamwork, and so building your character and environment of can do, while understanding there's a struggle. So always trying to be better has always been the military. And what they mean by that, it's very hard for the civilian world to understand, is they never want you to feel comfortable. You're in a process improvement mode in your entire life. So one of the things people are like, what do you mean by that? I said, well, if you look at it, a $500 million F-18 aircraft lands successfully on an aircraft carrier. The rest of the world's like, that is amazing for that person to have that skill set. Meanwhile, that person had to go to a room to get debriefed, what's called an AAR, after action report, to tell them how they should do it better next time. So if you're not around that environment, you're thinking you're good and you're thinking you're successful. And that's the rest of the population when I'm good at golf. I'm good at tennis. I'm good at sales. But the military is always gut checking you to say 5% better, 2% better, 10% better. And that's how you get that environment of always viewing that. That's why my network happens to be some military. It's not imposing, it's lifting people, change agents, pushing people uncomfortable to feel comfortable to hit goals.
Yeah, and it's what Tony Robbins calls CANI, constant and never-ending improvement.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm one of those guys who I am a guy who goes, "Oh my God, that's incredible!" When they land on those aircraft carriers, and the wire catches them, and just incredible. And I really do love fighter jets. I'm just amazed. It was always, how do I get a ride in one of those? And apparently, it's pretty difficult if you're a civilian. You kind of got to know somebody important. But I just find the way they're going so fast, those sharp turns they make. I mean, it's just incredible. And my daughter actually became an aerospace engineer. And when she first told me the company that had recruited her, I went to their website, and right on it, there's an F something. I don't know if it's an F-18 or an F-35 or something, but it's on there and it's flying. I'm like, yeah, that's the company you should work for. Brilliant. I also know you're passionate about working with returning veterans. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, on the side, I found the process of empowering our community, come from a long line where my dad served, my grandfather served, my wife's been in executive and nonprofit. So we have kind of strong values of servant leadership, and we try to lead by example of empowering the community to be better. So putting our veterans in a position of success in greater Philadelphia is about positioning them and seeing what is working and what could be better. So I hate to use the word broken, not working, all that. It's about better. And there's opportunities to put veterans in better positions, more growth, and getting them to understand next mission. And it's just like getting out of the military. You just got to understand your new mission and how to attack the hill. And putting our network in place in Greater Philadelphia Veterans Network is how we did it as a nonprofit. So jobs, leadership, and business, business ownership, entrepreneurship, and training the community of how to view successfully veterans rather than how they see it in the media. And then we do a signature event at the end of the year, which is a national event called the Veteran Shark Tank.
I saw a lot of that on your LinkedIn feed. I was amazed by it. Yeah, and I want to get back to sales questions, but I don't understand why we don't take better care of our veterans. I mean, the freedom that you and I enjoy is because of people like you who did serve. I missed the Vietnam War like by minutes. Not upset about it, but I never got a chance to serve. And anybody who is willing to take the time and give of themselves, give of their time and their possible life to serve us, needs to be better taken care of. There's a woman in the networking group I belong to who runs not a charity, but a foundation that helps homeless veterans get back on their feet, find some housing and education. It's just incredible. And we don't do enough.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So let's get back to sales. What are some of the common behaviors that are found in successful salespeople, especially ones that the typical salesperson doesn't do or doesn't have?
I always say I learned. It's an answer where you look at it sometimes as a reminder. Sometimes it's in front of you, and sometimes you don't realize it. Is when my son was blessed to play Division I football. Right, he's playing for West Point, the Army right now.
Wow!
But what skills did he have communicating with coaches during the recruiting process? Was really strictly confidence. I got to hand it to him. It's hard. You don't know. These people are adults. He's a kid, and they want to communicate. So think about what is the ultimate skill young people want is confidence. It's really the confidence to, who cares if you screw up? The confidence to strike out 7 times and get 3 hits in baseball for statistics. So truly the ultimate is confidence of always believing you're going to be okay. His confidence turns a little bit into what we see as maybe contrarians. They believe they're always right. Mm-hmm. But as a leader, you can mold those, but you don't want to teach people confidence, right? It has to be where if they're at the tip of the spear, I'll round off and round the edges, right? So what I view as really good, one of the top ones still to this day, is the utter confidence to cold call, the utter confidence to be in a meeting, the utter confidence to not know something and to feel confident about it, right? And that's where I see, and the ability to, second ability is really to have very good time management in what your high value activities are, and in the sense of your activities for the week, while everything looks like you should be doing. And how do you pay attention to accomplishments? And how do you manage your stress during that time? Those three things will make somebody, you could just add skills, add knowledge, learn this product, learn this service, learn our technology, learn anywhere there. You just are looking for core activity with people of how they manage their week, how they do it with confidence. And I'm blessed because I teach also adjunct at Temple University sales. So I see it also where I can see like there's confidence, right? And some of it is they went through the pandemic. They're the kids that went through in high school or before. You can see where they took a hit, and it's going to be a challenge, could be for work when in that environment. Self-doubt. And salespeople get self-doubt all the time from losing a losing streak in there. So never feeling lack of confidence.
Yeah. Or you made a bunch of calls and nothing happened. Nobody returns your voicemails. You can't get through to anybody. You get through to people. You can't get appointments. The confidence is truly so crucial. I always say, and I don't care whether you like this guy or don't like this guy, you got to have the confidence of a Donald Trump. He believes that whatever he says is right, and he's absolutely good. It's going to be accepted. And if you don't have that kind of confidence, not cocky, but people can tell when you're not confident. If you're not confident in your product or service, the prospect's going to know that. If you're not confident when you're talking to them on the phone to get an appointment, they're going to know that too. And especially I find, and I'd love to hear what you feel about this, I find that even good salespeople, not great ones, but good ones, they tend to have a lack of confidence when they're just about to talk about price. That everything else can be going great, but when it comes to giving their number, it's like they're humming and they're hawing and almost apologetic. And I think that's the time you need to be most confident. You have to state that here's what the investment is with complete and utter confidence, as if, of course, that's the right number. And of course, you're going to say yes. How do you feel about that, Alex?
Yeah, you're hitting a good spot right here. So how do you give people who are not guessing about talking about money and the confidence, right? So it's a 2-for-1, right? So if it's properly done, you can see, well, if you're hiking, you got two mountains in front of you. You're going to see the elevation. You're going to see the terrain. You're going to see what your need for speed and durability and equipment based to be successful. Sales is about the same way. How do you see the road ahead? Don't land on it. Don't land on the conversation. So you got a couple different options. Typically, if you know it's coming and the meeting's set up that way, then you can lead it. So what we mean by that is today more than ever, the Harvard Business Review wrote an article a couple of years ago about how people want to be managed more in life because we're so overwhelmed. Buyers are overwhelmed. Buyers are overwhelmed because they have so many things on their plate. So if you lead the conversations, they will follow you. And I have a kind of an example on that to kind of share with you in a second. But to go back to pricing is if you share with you and they say, hey, Jeff, I know we talked about all this. Would you be open to talking about the investment now? That gives the confidence that they accepted the conversation and you join it first. They follow you, not they pushed you in there. And then you have to respond. So that's the confidence of saying I'm in charge. That's the confidence of, because then you rehearsed it or you did role play or whatever it is. So we always want the salesperson to say it first and never be. And so when people try to do that, strong personalities, we're not there yet. We'll be there in a couple minutes. We'll be there in the next meeting. So
you mean when they're asking about price?
It's the confidence to deflect and then you lead it and never, unfortunately, certain organizations have really strong customer service mantra. So they're like, whatever they want, whatever the conversation is, how can I help you? But if you can't lead it, then you're on your heels in sales. So we sometimes have to do a culture shift, no fault of their own. They just have a very, very nurturing. Some of this came from post-pandemic. How's everybody? Let's make sure everybody's safe. Let's make sure everybody's okay. So they left this room full of pillows and blankets, right? And nobody's really moving around and nobody's really moving along, and you got to manage it. Tell them where to be, and how to behave, and they will follow you. So I'll use this example. To give me a minute, I'll use the example.
Please.
If you were going to buy a car and somebody told you, Jeff, come down to the lot in Philly just for 2 hours, buyers are going to be like, I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm already stressed out. I don't want to go. I know I need a car, but that's what we say. That's every buyer for you, because they're going to behave that way. What is happening here? How are we doing this? But if you're telling them how to buy, saying, Jeff, come on in for an hour. Come on in for an hour and a half to first half hour, drive the car, second 20 minutes, color and model. Then we're going to negotiate. We got to know financing. We're going to have to figure out and negotiate as well. And then probably about 20 minutes of admin paperwork and you'll be out the door. You'll be like, here's my cash. So what happens if buyers understand the process, they are more likely to buy from you than if you meet with them. So that question is who wants to be in charge is the question. So if, especially your time, my time, people's time, if we don't know where we're going, then we're just going to say, what's the cost? What's this? And then all of a sudden we're just all over the place with the person at the car dealer, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. Somebody's got to control the conversation. Somebody's got to control the meeting. It's either going to be you or the prospect. If the prospect's controlling the meeting, they may take me to Miami. I like Miami, but not if I want to go to San Francisco. The salesperson needs to look. I used to teach salespeople, you've got to be in charge of everything in the sales process from start to finish. And about 6 or 7 years, I realized we don't really have a ton of control because the prospect can meet with us or not. They can pay us or not. But the one thing we can do is control the conversation, take it to the right in the right direction, and we can consistently move the sale forward and be evaluating, is this worth another meeting, or should I stop this right here because I've got no shot and stop wasting my time? But yeah, if you're not willing to I'll say take charge and do the process that you know that work. It's like I sometimes speak with people who have bought sales training before, but sometimes they have no idea how to do that. I know how to sell it to them though, and it's my job to lead them through the process that I know is going to work for them and for me. My goal is always win-win. A lot of books, speaking of the military, a lot of books have been written about sales as if it's war, and your job is to win. Well, to me, and I'd love to hear what you say, Alex, it's either we both win or we both lose. I get your money, you get my product or service. I don't get your money, you don't get my product or service. So it's not about crushing the opponent. It's how do we work as a team?
I love what you say about that. So I have a session coming up. Every Veterans Day is the Marine Corps birthday the day before, right? So I do a session of how to sell like a Marine. And I have a lot of Marines that are in sales, and they're like, who does this guy think? He's a Navy guy. He doesn't know who I am. Like, all the Marines show up. They're like, tell me how the Marines are the best. And everybody's interested. They're like, I want to be Marine in sales, right? So the question is, why do Marines are best at sales? So I'll ask you, Jeff, is just to take a stab at it. Why do you think the Marines are the best at sales?
Well, they're disciplined. They know how to go after an objective with single focus. They care about their team members. They don't leave anybody behind. Like that. Am I going?
It's good answers. It's a really good answer. So you hit it. So mission focused. So what is mission focused in sales? Your job is to go from beginning to end and get an outcome. Yes or no. They don't care a no's. They don't care if it's a no. They hit their objective. So what happens is all salespeople care about no's. Marines don't care about no's. So the Marine, in the world of war, there's live or die. There's a battle. You either will succeed or you won't. And sometimes there's a little bit in the middle. But at the same time, in sales, the worst for Marine, the worst for military people is unknown. They hate unknowns. You can't live in the world of unknowns. And sales lives in unknowns. So our objective is never to live in a world of unknowns. So if I'm told to storm the beach, I'm not going to say how high are the waves. Is the current good? Should I come back on Thursday? Maybe they don't want me. Maybe there's the goal, objective. We figure it out. I got to storm the beach. So very mission focused is how I view it, and with no emotion. So that's the key about being mission focused.
Yeah. And you said one of my favorite words in sales, which is no. Salespeople, I think quite often have the opinion that no is horrible. I just want to hear yes. I don't expect to hear yes every time. Look, guys like you and me who teach other people how to sell for a living, I don't know about you. I don't close everything, and I don't expect to. And I think I always say that, I have two favorite words in sales. One is yes and one is no. And, for those who can actually see this will be a podcast, but I'm holding my hand close to the top of my head. If yes is here, no's exactly right below it. And I love both of them. I make it easy for people to say yes and easy for them to say no. I make it challenging for them to say anything else, because that gets in my way. That prevents me from achieving my mission, which is let's either work together or not work together. And both of them are okay. My preference is that if I'm right for you and you're right for me, that we work together. But if not, that's okay too. Let's move on to the next mission. Yes?
Absolutely. So what's the biggest form of flattery for success in sales? I say, how do you know you've reached the cream of the crop in sales? And people are like, what is it? Is it the amount? How do you become Michael Jordan of sales? And I said, is it the championships? I said, absolutely not. That comes naturally. It is for everybody to feel comfortable to tell you the truth. And those that tell you, so the way I learned that was when one of my biggest deals years ago, I had breakfast. He was the top of the building in Philadelphia, a healthcare technology company. We had breakfast and we met, and I was looking for an answer, and we were just talking, and he goes, Alex, we decided to go in a different direction. Please pass the salt. Right. So what happened was, at that moment, you have to be aware of what is transpiring. Right. But in essence, and he gave a referral later. Right. So what I mean by that is, don't have discount no's for not wins. What they are is, he felt comfortable. He didn't email me. He didn't text me. He didn't ghost me. So when people meet in person, I did a good enough job that he wanted to still have the breakfast to do it live. So the biggest form of flattery in sales, most people think, are wins. I said, no, it's when they're able to tell you what's on, because statistically, we don't tell people the truth. Jeff, hey, let's talk about your financial planning. You're like, Alex, let's talk later this year. And I know you're friends of my wife, and
I'm busy with this.
I'm busy, So statistically, the people are not malicious. They just don't know how to say no.
Yeah.
And what you want is the truth, and you want no's. And when people start collecting no's, we're in the business of, like, how many did you get? They feel the power of, I can move on. I can move on. I can move.
That's exactly it, Alex. It's no is actually a gift. It's not as good a gift as yes, but it is a gift, because now I don't have to think about you anymore. And it puts one more space in my week where I have some time to talk to somebody else who might say yes. No is great. Again, I like yes better. Don't get me wrong. I'm not stupid, but no is a gift. Think it over, talk to my partner, take it to the committee. All that's a waste of my time. By the way, if I didn't know that you have a partner that you got to talk to, shame on me for not doing my job properly. Anyways, we're a little more than halfway through an interview with Alex Archawski, the president of Sales Evolution. We're going to take a 60-second break for our sponsor, which is me. Hi, I'm Jeff Goldberg, the founder of the Sales Pro Network. For nearly 5 decades, I've been selling, managing, coaching, and training salespeople internationally. And I'm often asked for one-on-one or private coaching, but it does involve a substantial investment. For that reason, I've recently developed the Sales Pro Insider Network community. It works like this. We get together twice a month on Tuesday nights from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. At the first session of the month, it's you and me, with me taking your questions and giving you the advice and help you need to both prospect and sell more effectively. At the second session of the month, we'll have a guest coach speaking on a fascinating topic that helps sellers like you and me. And of course, we'll do group coaching then too. The best part is the investment is just $27 for the first month, and there's no long-term contract at all. In fact, you can cancel at any time. Go to crushsalesgoals.com. That's crushsalesgoals.com. I hope to see you there. I'm very excited because our guest on the 24th is Melissa Esmeralda, who is an email and lead generation expert. If anybody who's listening to this would like to join as my guest, you can DM me, you can reach out to me through LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to send you a free pass to come. You don't even have to give me the $27. Come and check it out, and you'll walk away with some great advice about developing more leads. And we're talking to Alex Archawski, the president of Sales Evolution. Alex, what's the most challenging part of the sales process?
I think it's definitely going to be when people hear objections. And so we look at it like this. If you're training for the marathon, you're going to be thinking of the last 3 miles. And what is the feeling of the last 3 miles? Suffer, not going to make it, unsure, doubt, and you're going to walk. Right? So how do you plan for it? Now, there's other challenging spots. There's no doubt. There's getting people back on track, people that are ghosting. We can talk about the incidentals of certain things, but if you have good salesmanship, those things should take care of themselves. We can talk about that and kind of how to help people really navigate those areas, because there's little cracks in those areas that we can talk about too, of how they show their face, of how they're going to be difficult to manage. So handling objections and negotiating are really where we see it. It's a lot of emotion. So we look at it saying the soundbite is, if they get you emotional, they win. If you get them emotional, you win, right? So the key is who's going to get who emotional about if they don't do it, what happens. If they tell you all this stuff and it makes you emotional and defensive, they win. So at the end of the day, it's really going to be about styles and behaviors. So if you master what we call relationship management, there's DISC in there, there's everything in there, you should know that they're going to bring it up. You should already know their style. If they're compliance, they're a C, they know you're going to have like, hey, how do I know if it's 4 feet? Hey, how do I know if you're going to deliver? Hey, I'm worried that X. So some of them looks like questions, some look like objections, but some of them are flat out objections. Your interest rates are high. We work with a lot of top banks, and we deal with a lot of that, right? So how do you overcome that? Is you meet them in the beginning. So you set expectations of their objections that are typically how you hear them, to see if that's some of the areas that are going to be concerns with them down the future. So you see where they are going to be, and then you can really, really plan for that to see how the undertone is. You can see how they're going to throw these questions. You can see how that's important to them. Because if you flat out saying, hey, do you have any questions for me at the end, then you're not prepared. And then you feel like you're going to be put on the defensive on that. So it's really, this is where role play really, really, really helps. It's really understanding what's your part when they say something, right? So by default, sometimes it's clarification questions. Hey, that's an interesting question. Can you tell me how that came about? Is that a concern for you? And can you explain a little bit more depth in that question? So you got to hear, right? You got to hear the objection. Most people have a really hard time. We're doing a lot of training right now on active listening, because what it is they're not listening to the objection. They think it's an objection, and it's not really that objection. It's something else. So some of it is about commitment of time, like technology companies, SaaS companies. It's about, they're worried about the commitment of time for the implementation. They're worried that none of their team is going to get it, but they don't flat out say it. So their objections are all over the place, right? So getting that area, that's what I wanted to share with you. That's where we see the hardest part, because once they're heard, not answered, then you can win the deal.
Yeah, I find that people freak out about objections. First, my belief is that you should never be shocked when you get an objection. If you've been selling any particular product or service for more than 10 minutes, you've already heard every objection you're going to hear. So there's no excuse for somebody says A and you go, oh, what am I going to do with this? I have no clue. I mean, and sometimes the other thing is that sometimes an objection is just a question. And it doesn't mean if you don't answer it properly, you're not going to get the deal. Like, can you do better on the price? I mean, for me, the answer is no, but because if I could have, I would have. But you know, people freak out at that stuff.
I want to add a little something to that too. I want to say that one of the best engagements we had was we trained the National Guard, hundreds and hundreds of people. We train in sales, in recruiting, and they have to recruit 17 and 18-year-olds that are super nervous, that are vulnerable, that are terrible buyers, that have parents, that have everything. Can you imagine try to be the best salesperson to sell your country to people that may need it, should, college, direction in life, whatever it is, right? So objections are the most of any client we've ever seen.
Wow.
Right? Because of the amount of objections are like, I'm going to get shot at. I might get PTSD. I'm not going to make any money. Where's my kid? So how do you stay grounded? And those are really, really tough ones. And we saw that, and it was amazing of how they carry. So if any companies are out there, hire those people because they know how to sell well.
That's awesome. I'm torn between, I'm going to jump to something else because you just brought it up because I'm also passionate about this. You just mentioned active listening. I also teach my clients active listening skills because I think there are three main things that all great salespeople do. And it's not what most people think. Most people think it's give a great presentation and be a strong closer. To me, it's ask great questions. Sales is really about asking the right questions. And number two has to be active listening, because if you ask the right questions, but you don't listen to the answers, you're wasting your time and theirs. And of course, the other is storytelling. Can you speak a little bit about what is active listening and how can we be better at it?
Yeah, active listening, it is the way we look at society is we don't know and how to rate ourselves to say, am I good at it or am I okay at it? I was like, well, it's like your golf game. Are you great at everything, but your short game is terrible? Then that might be active listening and how you do everything, right? So everything else is great except that part. So active listening is really about getting truths and about understanding people. And really the goal is to shorten the sales cycle. If you're able to communicate effectively to get and listen and be heard, it's key. It's key. And a lot of people throw nonsense, and I mean nonsense, when it's words. So people have a hard time being attuned. So what I mean by nonsense is people are like, hey, Alex, I hate my job. I'm like, okay, well then leave, right? You hate your job. It must be miserable. But at the end of the day, it could be that they're disgruntled in the commute, right? So what are you listening for? How are you interpreting that? How do you understand and make them speak? Because some people don't articulate it of what it is that's driving them nuts and what it is that's on their mind. And some of them have never expressed it properly. So your job as an active listener is why they said it, when they said it, body language, and what are they saying? So what happens is you can see it with depth, you can see it with angst, you can see it with struggle, you can see it so you got to like actively listening is there's emotion behind it or not, maybe not, maybe so. So being attuned that's why we really, really have to be careful when we tell people, how big is this meeting? You cannot put yourself in between meetings to have this meeting. Your active listening will be gone. You're coming from an emergency meeting and you're going to an emergency meeting for work, especially buyers, sellers, entrepreneurs, people that manage teams. Individual contributors can probably do it better. But if you're trying to cram, the world we're doing right now is cramming, is you didn't give yourself a break so that you can reset. So we do 10 minutes before, just to kind of a little bit, kind of no substance in the head. And that helps because you can't jump and feel like you're listening all day. It's impossible. So that part in itself is repeating back. We do kind of, post meetings. What did they hear? The depth of it, to hear it, because it's a mix of them asking questions on it, of course, on the active listening, and also what they want to hear. What do they want to hear? So if you train people to have happy ears, okay, they hear an opportunity. Other people go, you know what? There's going to be a strong current in that area of the ocean. We got to be careful of how we navigate the ship. We're like, wow, it's open seas. We should go full throttle, right? I said, it all depends on how you listen to that briefing. But the way I heard it is we got to really maneuver in a different way.
Yeah, I love what you said about emergency to emergency to emergency. I use Calendly so that clients can book time to speak with me and prospects, and I build in a buffer. There's always a 10 to 15 minute buffer before and after every meeting, so I do have time to consider what just happened, enter information into my CRM, but get ready for that next one. I think that's crucial. And I look at active listening as it's not what most of us do most of the time. Active listening is very intentional. It's listening to truly understand instead of listening to get your next bit of brilliance out. And my favorite way to express it is, I don't know about you, but I've been on a lot of airplanes flying different places to do training, and every now and then go on a vacation. When they explain to you how to put on a seatbelt and where the emergency exits are and all that stuff, I'm not listening. I've been on so many planes. I know exactly what they're going to say. I could do that talk, but I'm typing very fast because I know they're going to make me put away my laptop any second. And I'm praying that we get off the ground quickly because they don't bring the drink cart around to you get up into the sky. But imagine that you're going, let's say I live in New York. Let's say we're flying from here to London, and halfway over the Atlantic Ocean, the pilot comes on and says, we're experiencing a little difficulty, ladies and gentlemen. Both wings just fell off, and we're going to now crash into the ocean at 550 miles an hour. But first, your flight attendants will now come out and explain the safety procedures again. I'm going to listen then because my life depends on it. And while our life doesn't depend on it when we're selling, our livelihood does. We've got to stop listening to speak and really try to hear what the prospect's saying. Because here's my belief, Alex. If you ask the right questions and listen actively, your prospect will tell you everything you need to know in order to help them choose to do business with you. So I want to hear everything they have to say. I don't think I talk anybody into anything. That's not my job. My job is to ask great questions, help people come to the decision that working with me is the right one, at least more often than not. Makes sense to you?
It makes total sense. I mean, it's a great example. One thing on the other side of active listening is how to shorten meetings of really bad ADHD entrepreneurs. Very much a lot of multitasking today of how they listen. They type when they hear, and they're texting while they listen. They got a bud in the ear and they're on the phone. And we will say, that's not us, that's them. So that's dangerous, right? So how do you want to be heard? Is you got to set expectations. You got to manage the person to say, so there's an art and a science of being discreet, but also at the same time, I've kicked meetings many times when I know I would have to repeat myself because they weren't actively listening. There's the other part of the other side. Yeah. So paying attention to how they listen to you, because I'll give you an example in that resonates with families, right? My son comes home from school. Is he really going to listen? My son goes to bed after taking a shower, homework, and really down for the count. Is he going to listen? There are times you just got to time it. And it's up to the person that wants to relay information of how and when you want to say it. And most people don't take that ownership as salespeople. They're like, we had our meeting, and they're the ones who. So you got to be patient. You got to understand when to say it because it's just life. If you want to be heard, you got to hear who's listening. If not, just don't say it.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw me kind of giggling when you were talking about the person who's listening with half an ear with an earbud in or something like that. I'll share this quickly because it's one of my favorite things. I met. I'm not going to say the name of the company because I don't want to insult anybody, but I met with a major corporation. I met with the marketing director and the VP of sales, and they liked everything I had to say. Say, okay, we're going to put you in front of the CEO. And they warned me, and I'm not going to say his name either, but they said, look, he's a genius. This guy, he's the smartest person you'll ever meet in your life. And he'll be on his phone. This was so long ago. He'll be on his BlackBerry the entire time you're talking. But I promise you, he's listening to you. And I turned to them. I said, he's not going to be on his BlackBerry while I'm talking, but okay. And they were like, how are you going to make sure he listens? I said, you'll see. So we get into the meeting. I'm doing I'm going through my sales process, and it didn't take very long. And he pulls out his BlackBerry and he's typing. I stopped talking, just like I did just now. I stopped talking. It took him about 30 seconds, and he looked up. I said, you good? And he put his phone down, and we did it. We continued on with the sales call. And it took about 10 minutes, and then he picked up his phone again. Silence is very uncomfortable for people. And look, I'm not going to waste my time. You think, here's what I believe, Alex. Multitasking is a myth. You cannot do two things at the same time as effectively as you do one. You can't listen. You can't take notes and listen while I'm speaking at the same time, as if as effectively as if you did only one. I think the chances that this guy listening and actually hearing what I was saying while he's also sending messages and reading messages on his BlackBerry are almost none. So I'm not going to play that game. And if he hadn't put it down, I would have said, you know what? I think we're both wasting our time. Nice to meet you. I'm out. And I actually didn't close the deal, but that wasn't what, there was another reason why. But yeah, I don't have time to waste. I just don't. I say there's just so much time that people like you and me and the people that we work with, there's only so much time each week we have to sell. We can't do it at midnight for most of us. There's 9 to 5, 8 to 6, whatever it is. And we have to make the most of that time. And I think we have to, as salespeople, we have to protect our time like a mother lion protects her cubs. Because I don't know about you, I've got things to take care of and I need to continue earning money. You're going to waste my time? No, not me, my friend. I do respect my prospects' time and certainly respect my customers' time, but there's one person whose time I respect more, and that's mine. And so many times I find that salespeople are just spinning their wheels and wasting their time, hoping that something's going to turn out. I'd rather walk away from a deal if it's not going to work out right.
I firmly agree. We have a chapter that we call the Sales Bill of Rights. You have the right for people to pay attention. You have the right to return phone call. You have the right for them to behave properly in the meeting. You have the right to negotiate a deal. You have the right. So we have 100 rights and teach people how to enforce their rights. It's the Bill of Rights. So you don't have the right for anything unless you enforce your rights, right? So we put the salesperson Bill of Rights, and it's how people view it. You don't try to put too much humor in it, but it is the truth. You got a lot of rights. So if you write them down, which one are you doing? You're like, oh, I'm not doing the Sales Bill of Rights here. I'm like, that's why that person did X, right?
Yeah. I love the idea of a Sales Bill of Rights. That's great. And by the way, I forgot to mention, but I could see the two guys who had told me this guy's not going to listen to you. I could see them. It was everything they could do to stay composed and not laugh when I shut up and he actually put his phone down. I'm not here to play. I like playing and having a good time, but I'm here to help you. And if I can't help you, I'm here to go to the next person that I might help. And there's something else I wanted to make sure we talk about because I'm seeing that we're quickly running out of time. And I've got like 75 more questions for you. But salespeople struggle with prospecting. I mean, every client that comes to every coaching client that comes to me, every training client I walk into, the number one challenge is they're just not seeing enough decision makers. And if you're not seeing enough decision makers, you can't sell enough stuff and earn enough money. So why do salespeople struggle so much with prospecting?
We might have all different philosophies of why salespeople struggle, but in our world, the way that we see it is it's an analytical thing. It's data. Where are they spending their time? So if you look at the way we view different things is, let's use the example is the general population today. If they were going to use the gym and they use the gym, we'll use the example of maybe Planet Fitness, right? As saying, I'm going to the gym. Do you think they know how to use it properly?
I'd say some do and probably most don't. Certainly the people who make a New Year's resolution to go to the gym for the first time, they don't.
But it's half the population does, half the population doesn't. So what happens is they get a certain amount of calories burned, but they didn't know what to do. Some people know exactly what to do, how they plan it, and they arrive on there with those activities, 10 this, 15 that, 100 weights, 100 pounds, 500, 550, whatever it is. Prospecting is the same way. So what happens is, what do you do? And because you burn more calories in the gym that way or less calories in the gym when you don't have a plan. So you go to the treadmill by default. That's why they're all there in the front, right? Is it's a psychology thing, right? We'll make you active, but we don't know. So really it's an algorithm. So we teach people algorithms, depending if they're local, national, whatever it is how do they view their algorithms in the different buckets of sales. So most companies only use calls, but they don't say anything else. So it's like one piece of equipment in the gym, right? So that's the company's fault most of the time because they didn't really explain the world of prospecting. For world of prospecting, by example, I'm not saying it is for everybody, could be networking events, online or in person. How many a week? How many did you do a week? Not are you going to do one? So you did the workout. How many circles of influence conversations? Your referral partners. How many did you do in that category? right? So now you're seeing where we built categories. Our world is, I teach a lot on prospecting. And if you build an algorithm of the activities, then you see where your wins are and where your struggles, and then you align it and you move. Like I burn more weight here, I'll do less of this. I see where my success is. Right now, there's only one channel to list. That's mostly company's fault, right? A true good leader. That's why I was saying, is it a computer problem or is it a server problem? When a sales leader goes, our guys, our gals have struggle, I'm like, well, that's the computer. You're the server. So let me fix you before we fix them. So how tools and resources, how do you put them in a position of success as a leader? The leader's responsibility is training them how to do the correct algorithm. There's another category that nobody really does well. So we have a category called keeping the love alive. So how many people in the sales world are getting in touch with people that are not in the pipeline? They came in and came out. They weren't sure they were going to use you. They said, call me later in the year. They're not in the pipeline. That's the number one thing the salesperson does when they call them. Guess what they say?
I'm just calling to follow up.
Checking in. So we have an anti-check-in process.
Yes.
But who's responsible for teaching them that? Not the salesperson.
No, it's the sales
It's
leader.
all a leadership issue. Everything that we talk about here is nobody arrives in sales knowing how to do this, right? And so you got to put them in a position of success, of understanding. So how many keeping the love alive in a week? 20, 10. So all these are numbers. So just to share with you, we have kind of a scoring card to score people themselves by various activities, and they score their activities based on the numbers they're trying to derive in those areas. Of course, outreach, prospecting, and different methodologies, putting a video and a voicemail in LinkedIn by phone, which most people don't realize they can do. How do you do that? Most people don't realize, how do you provide value? So introductions and referrals, that's prospecting. How many introductions have you made in a week? How many referrals have you made in a week? Because you provide value unrelated to you. Those things are hard because there's no dopamine behind that. There's none. So those things are all great things that build over time because your value and your brand is out there. And then you can get those referrals. We're really more centered around stop selling and get your referrals mantra. And that's the process of prospecting, how we create this aura of less hunting and more referrals. So that's the prospecting world we live in.
Yeah, I'm certainly a big fan of, I want people to raise their hand. I want people to say, hey, I think I'm interested in what you've got. I get a third of my business from LinkedIn, and I do zero LinkedIn outreach where it's, hey, do you need any sales training or sales coaching today? There's absolutely none of that. I post content 5 days a week, and I'm giving away the information that people like you and me sell every single day, 5 days a week, just giving it away. I've grown from 700 followers to over 9,000 now. And a third of my business is from people who reach out to me, whether it's a DM or an email or a call, because my contact information is right on there and easy to find. Hey, I've been following you for 6 months. Really like what you're saying. Want to talk to you about coaching or training or whatever it is. I want to make my sales job as easy as I possibly can, given that sales is not an easy gig. So people who raise their hand and say, I think I'm interested in what you've got, is a lot easier than picking up the phone and saying, hey, want any sales training today? And of course, if I was doing that, I'd do it more elegantly. And I'm fine with cold calling. I think it should be a part of every salesperson's mix. But the point, to me, you got to do something. And I love your piece about referrals. And so does my friend Michael North. He says, I love that. Less hunting and more referrals. Me too. Another third of my business is from the networking group I belonged to for 20 years. Referrals from there. Make it as easy as possible. And I hate to say this, but we're out of time, and I'm going to share my screen. Yeah, I could talk to you all day, my friend. I'm sharing my screen right now. If you would tell everybody, because there are people who can see this right now, but this will be converted to a podcast. And for those who aren't seeing it, please tell them how they can reach you if they're interested in speaking with you or possibly taking some of your programs.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex at salesevolution.com. All social media, Sales Evolution, our kind of website's pretty beta, but most of it is through introductions, referrals, and people that just want to learn. And we're going to be giving out a free scholarship to a veteran that's in sales. We're going to give them a free opportunity from my good friend, Justin Constantine. God bless him. He passed, but he was a war hero. He came through our program. So we're going to give back to our community and give back to veterans to make them successful in sales. But feel free to reach out.
Got it. Would you like to give out your phone number, Alex?
Sure. 267-939-1558.
I always love talking to an expert. Thank you, Alex Archawski, for sharing your brilliance so generously. And I will end this as I do every week. Guys, please remember, sales is a game of making things happen. Get out there and make sales happen. Have a great weekend, everybody. Have a great weekend, Alex. Thanks again.
Thank you.